All right, so up next, let's talk about the Acolyte, the full season of it, right? Ricardo and I, we talked about the first two episodes that aired on June 4th. But the other six episodes came out, so now we can talk about the full season. And together, along with us, I should say, we have the unquestionable nerd himself, Ashton Menzies. Welcome back to the show.
What up? What up? Good evening, everyone.
Yes, yes, yes. Cause he is here because he was here to talk about the last season of The Boys, but we'll get to The Boys after this, right? So you can look out for that. So the Acolyte, right? And this is something I want to address. While when I do my review of it, right? The reception it had when the first trailer came out, and while the show was going on, right? So the Acolyte, right, is the newest Star Wars live action series, right? Coming out of Disney Plus, coming out of Lucasfilm and all that good stuff, right? The moment that first trailer dropped, I saw it and I was like, oh, okay, that looked really interesting. This is not related to any of the movies. This is like a prequel to episode one. So this is long, long, long before the Phantom Menace. So that's really interesting. I think for one thing that is a breath of fresh air because, when it comes to Star Wars content, there's always stuff that take place in between shows, right? So it's either between 3 and 4 or, 6 and 9, 6 and 7, stuff like that. This one takes a bold new approach now and goes literally to the beginning, right? So if you are that Star Wars fan who have absolutely nothing to do and you just want to document every show and say have it as a timeline as an example, this will be at the top. This will be the first thing that will kick things off, right? But what interests me when the trailer came out now was the reception it got, right? The toxic reception it got, right? So, for one thing, oh my god, a black queer actress leading the show and it's directed by a queer director. What? We can't have this now, Star Wars, no! And people just went nuts. Just people who just have nothing to do calling themselves Star Wars fans. And I'm not saying that they all they're not Star Wars fans, right? But there's some of them would just went in with this bad taste in general, just kind of want their Star Wars, or at least what they grew up in, to remain untouched, and they don't want it to be all woked and whatnot, right? So that's what it is. But the thing about this though, you see a trailer and you instantly say this show is gonna be trash. I'm gonna hate this show, right? So while the show is going on, even with the 2-episode premiere, people were kind of quick to go online and go on go on YouTube and, laugh at it and make fun of it, right? So I'll just say the preamble, right? So I'll just bring up what I wouldn't call the critic by name, the YouTuber by name, but it's a person that you all know. I'm not gonna call his name, right? He was one of the first to just say, you know what, I just gonna be critiquing these things every single week. I'll bring some Jack Daniels and I'll just have a glass. I'll just be drinking it while I talk about the show, right? So in defense of him, right? At least he is a Star Wars fan. This man knows a lot about Star Wars, right? At first, I thought that he was just doing it in poor taste, like he was just shitting on the show just because, like it was fun to do, right? But the man actually had some valid points to make. And while what I did, right, I just sort of waited till the show ended. I'll talk about that. I just sort of watch each episode, and then I will cut to what the guys see, and then I'll be like, what, you're right, you're right. Still, you're being a little harsh to the show, but I get where you're coming from. That's actually some great points to me. Just logic stuff that kind of don't make sense, right? I'll get to that too. But I haven't seen any other review outside of that, and I know a majority of them will just involve, oh, Star Wars is just being more woke, and we don't like this, and blah 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 blah. It was even to the point that even the actress herself, the lead, Amanda Stenberg, sorry, had to put out this weird sort of diss track, kind of addressing all this. It was kind of weird. Don't mind she was pulling a lot of Spike Lee influence from it, but it was weird in retrospect, right? But anyway, but again, it's to the point that the lead herself had to stop what she doing and address this in a rap. That's how real this shit was, Jed. And in my mind, I just they're like, why y'all just don't wait for the story to end and then watch the full thing out and then make your opinion? Don't just watch it every single week just so you can rip it apart with the intention of just ripping it apart and making fun and saying, oh, Acolyte is the worst Star Wars show ever. Let the story build, let it grow, and then when it ends, that's when you make your final opinion. And that's what I did. I hope that's what you did, Ricardo. I hope that's what you did, Ashton, as well. So we could jump into this, right? But yeah, Ricardo, I just want you to just talk about, just run through what the Acolyte is about, and then I'll share my thoughts for last, right? But yeah, you share your thoughts, then Ashton, and then I'll end things off. But yeah, Ricardo, Acolyte, what was it about?
Right, so way back in the past, this is during the supposed High Republic era, apparently. So about roughly 100 years before the events of episode 1, around that. Uh, some shenanigans afoot on this planet where something being there and a bunch of Jedi have to go that. And now we have a mystery with all of them involved with that. And these two girls, we put in two in quotes, have an interesting mystery with that. And one of them seems to be hunting down these Jedi uh, tied to this planet and this mystery. And it builds from there as a murder mystery and figuring out why these Jedi did what and who did what and why is it cover up. And that's where it builds from in terms of, well, this character's evil, but it is she tied to another woman, and then this person was a former Jedi, and so on and so forth. And it's Amanda Stenberg, playing the roles of May and Usha. These two girls are getting putting that in quotes because it's a lot of plot reveals that address that might not be the case, and it's a lot of it's Star Wars lore bullshit that I kind of don't care about, but I had to I vaguely remember to say, okay, this kind of makes sense and to connect with that. And that's pretty much what it builds from, but then it builds more mystery boxes and mysteries and ideas for part 2. And yeah, I was gonna straight up say it, even though I didn't waste no time getting into all of the hate and nationality from it. I kind of like this more than some stuff, but not as much as others. Basically, how I felt about it is that there's a bunch of decent ideas and not the best execution, right? And what it felt like is half of a story, right? In my humble opinion, this could have been it when it ended. That's when it got interesting. It's like, oh, the story kind of now starts. This is more interesting than anything that happened before. All of that was just boring preamble that I wasn't into when they reveal everything. And that's how I felt about it. And then, well, as usual with all of these shows, especially Star Wars, people forgetting to use their powers for some dumb reason, right? There's a lot of dumb. But with that said, let me just get the good out of the way, right? I think the lead actress, she's great. Amanda Stenberg is pretty good. Why? Because she feels like two different people, even though, well, plot reasons, she's not really two different people. And I suspect, again, I'm familiar enough with Star Wars to know what might be happening here, right? But she's great because she really feels like two different people playing, bouncing off each other with that. And because especially when it comes to chemistry with certain characters, and it's like, oh shit, that playing out nice and good. And then when they address other things, they make it work. My boy from Squid Game playing Saul, I thought he was good, even though the writing for him kind of dumb. But what he was set up as a character, I actually like a lot of that stuff, right? But then what else? The fighting. That's some decent fighting. I didn't know Daphne Keane was in this. I did not know that was her in the first couple episodes.
I didn't know that either. You know what I mean? AKA X-23 from Logan. That's her.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's because she didn't talk that much in Logan.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, it's because she had the British accent. That's what.
Yes.
Because it's that. Yeah. And it have some decent. Again, the combat was okay. They set up some decent ideas. And that's about it. Right now, let's be clear. I definitely prefer this over Boba Fett. Definitely better.
Oh yeah.
Definitely better than, in my opinion, better than Obi-Wan. I like it more than Obi-Wan. Right? It actually held me because it again, at the end, when they reveal a couple things about a couple characters, that is when the story starts. And I felt, all right, well, this is the first half of the season. But now I had to wait about 2-3 years for the second half to come out. So by then I wouldn't care or be interested. Because there's a character that they reveal. And to me, that character is more interesting than anything else. Right? That was late. They revealed something about it. Your boy, David Hayward?
David. I was like, homie from Supergirl. I was like, hey.
Yeah, but he dropped some draft and all right, well, why he didn't come in earlier? He would have had more hype for this.
Yeah, the man was in the final episode, Red, and he stood out. He shone. He's shining that. He real shining that.
Right.
He didn't waste no time.
Right. And then that's it. Everything else is bad. My main problem with this is that, again, his characters, especially in episode 7, right? When they show the entire situation from a different perspective. I get what they're going for, I get it. But the whole execution of that is so clumsy and doesn't work at all because there's certain people forgetting to use their powers. Here's an example. So they do the whole M count bullshit thing, right? From episode 1, right? Because okay, so to spoil, May and Osha is something like Anakin, but also a Force dyad kind of thing at the same time, because they didn't fully explain that, but it's something akin to what Anakin is, right? Remember, Anakin is like a weird Force homunculi and not really the product of sperm, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So the young fella was like, oh, man, count, let me go off and thing. And fucking Carrie-Anne Moss was like, go stop him. Kind of thing. Like, Carrie-Anne Moss, you have the Force. Like, just pull them back. Freaking, you already know that Saul compromised. Just send them ass home now. Like, none of them relevant to this. I would rather say, good, we going home. Fuck this. Go home. Not listening to these idiots. It was stupid. The stuff with when the mother, well, not the mother, but the black mother headed the witches thing. She turned to smoke, and then the fella panic and stab her. I was like, wait, why did you decide to do it like that? But then all of them, listen, I get what it was going for, but the whole like editing and how it comes together is so clumsy and doesn't work. But that's about it. The guy was the Sith guy. He was kind of cool, like what he was trying to explain. And again, I get what they're going for. The Jedi is priests, but also cops. And they kind of like Catholic Church, but like it's like you're dealing with like Wiccans or like maybe like a different version of how to interpret the Force. I get all of that, I get what they're going for. But yeah, the execution is kind of weak, and I just couldn't get into any of it as it was because like I don't love Star Wars enough to give a shit one way or the other. But I know the haters of this was particularly bad in terms of the behavior about it because it's usual pylon bullshit and that kind of nonsense. So I wasn't there for that. I was not paying attention to any of that. I just watch it and. Ultimately, it's half of a story. At the end, it got okay and interesting. And I was like, all right, one of the characters, all I'll say, well, just to spoil it, is a character with a purple lightsaber. So like, oh, she has a purple lightsaber. That hints at something because I know that connected to what Mace Windu was. And he has a whole thing. I forget what his style was, Jadak or some bullshit like that. But it's, he tapping into Force and dark side and light side stuff. And then they do the bleed the Kyber crystal stuff, which I thought was like, yeah, I know this from before. Like, that's a Star Wars thing. So that was cool. That worked for what it was given Osha's arc. That worked. But execution, clumsy, doesn't work. Everything involving Saul and Osha don't really I didn't see the connection in terms of why Saul's so obsessed because of the M count thing. I couldn't like make the connection like why you so obsessed in that sense. Like I wasn't seeing what it was. Because at first I thought they were going to do like some kind of weird sexual thing with it or something like that. I was like, no, it's just he just really want a Padawan for some reason. Like I couldn't follow why he was so obsessed to do something so silly and irrational as it was. And I get it like when David Hayward's character like just drop the draft on the Jedi, I'm like, all right, that works in the concept. And then when they do what they do in the end, they're like, all right, that cut together. As it is, it's fine, right? Ultimately, it's fine. Better than Obi-Wan. I prefer that. Definitely better than Boba Fett, but not better than early Mandalorian, and definitely not better than Andor. Like seriously, like I can't wait for fucking Andor season 2. That could come now. Like you could just drop all this bullshit and just do more Andor, please. But I didn't hate this. It was fine. Like it was mostly fine. Just usual. Hey, these characters just kind of have to hold the idiot ball to get it forward, get the plot going forward. That's how it felt. And it's like, all right, they could have tightened up that a little better as it is. But I didn't hate it. It's fine.
Yeah. Ashton, your thoughts on the Acolyte. And by the way, we'll leave rating for last, right?
Acolyte, I think it was good. I think the writing was poor, but I think the show was decent. And two things could be true and not the same, right? So the show could be bad, but it could also have been good. In terms of fighting was good. And to me, I feel like a lot of these shows do things expecting the grand audience to know all the lore, right? But if you don't know lore, you'll be lost in these shows, right? So
Definitely.
People don't understand why Saul was obsessed with O'Shea and May, right? Now, one of the reasons for that is we don't know how far back the prophecy goes in terms of the prophesied child, right? But we know how the prophesied child comes about. It's not through birth, right? So we don't know if that's part of his canon right there. So that's one thing. Right. Now, nobody knowing about the Sith coming back is the next thing, right? But it's valid because if they haven't been around and they just haven't been there years and years and years, they're like a myth at that point. And then Quamir is trying to restart the whole order, right? Because he says the order of two, which means he is the one trying to start it back, which means he does not have a master, which means he would be the first Sith master after like coming in, right?
I follow all of that.
Right. So I mean,
follow all of that. Right.
People should be a little bit more patient with that kind of information, but we live in a time where politics matters more than what we're watching, because we watching it down here in the Caribbean as fans and whatnot, right? But as Matthew said, a lot of the actress's politics or whatnot and her orientation was coming up from fans. But if you notice, that's not going to be a Caribbean problem. That's a Western problem. And when they start pushing that out, right, they push that out to ignorant people on a further basis, right? So now, like, let's say there's the Trinidadian who wasn't watching it, and then they hear that information, and they're like, oh, well, I don't want to watch that. To me, it's the same thing like being interested in American politics, saying they're from America. That's how I feel about it now. Like, leave all of that out. We need to rate a show on the fact that the writing is shitty, the acting is shitty, or the execution is terrible, or vice versa. Everything was great, right? And this show was not that. This show had such good ideas, but as Ricardo was saying, it felt like the first part of a story, and it just ended kind of meh. And that's how it felt. It felt like they wasted so much time on the whole poison episode. That was real shit.
Yeah, terrible.
Right? That was horrible. And you have all these bad episodes then leading up to a good episode, which is like the 4th episode or 5th episode in an 8 episode series.
Right.
You're not really giving people a lot to work with. You understand? And then you're just showing flashes of amazing. No, to me, all the fights were good. I can't complain about the fights.
Right.
Right? The choreography, bang on. Even when that girl X-23, the fight scene was amazing. Right up until the end, it was sick. I was in that. I was like, holy. Yeah. The stuff with the helmet.
Right.
And his gloves.
Yeah. I can follow that. Like the helmet could shut down lightsabers. What the fuck going on there? Like, is Beskar armor? How that doing? What you doing?
No, I'm not sure what it is.
It's a different type of material.
Okay.
That they had equivalent of Beskar, but not. But
okay.
He could have shot it out just by hitting it.
Right.
Because
and I thought that was kind of cool. It's like, right. Because you know what they did in the fight episode? I like, yeah, they finally turned off the goddamn lightsaber in the middle of a fight.
Yes.
Like, you know, not more. What the hell? Like, that's one thing I used to bother the hell about in Star Wars. It's like, my thing is that why don't they turn off lightsabers more? And it's like, well, it's because it's bad technique and bad form. Like, fuck you. Like, win the fight now. Like, that kind of dumb nonsense. Whatever. You man turn off the lightsaber and cut the ass. It's like, yeah, but that we had to be doing. Finally. Whatever. Like,
and something else that we need to also pay attention to in terms of lore, right? The Jedi do come across as political, religious zealots, right? And to be honest with you, I am more of a Sith sympathizer. Because what does being a Jedi really teach you? It teaches you to not have any emotions, and they can't let your emotions in at all. It's weird. It's weird to live a life like that, right? It's weird to live like a Jedi if you really think about it. You can imagine your life with no emotions and no attachments and no nothing. It's weird.
Yeah.
Right?
So the mystery, okay, so the mystery box stuff with the witches, because they're not Night Sisters, right? What are they? Like, that was never clear to me, but I just assume they kind of sit
are they Night Sisters?
I think they're Night Sisters. I think they're Night Sisters on a different planet.
Me too.
You know what I mean? I mean, they all have their horn. Some of them have their horn faces and whatnot. Also, interestingly enough, people said that Carrion Moss killed all of them with one move. How do you know she killed them?
No, I don't think.
How do you know they just weren't knocked out? They were just knocked out.
That was part of the accident.
Bad timing for them. Yeah.
Right, no, I kind of gathered that they get knocked out because we call it Abigail Thorne as part of the group. All of them I was following that, and they was doing the thing, and they all pull the energy to we call them the Wookiee now, and then pushed them out and knocked them out, but then they was knocked out. They looked like they were dead from the earlier flashback, from the different perspective. And then the entire place collapsed on them, and that is when they're dead. So it's like, that's how I kind of see it. I don't know, whatever. But, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry about Ashton. Go ahead.
Oh, no, but how long does the carcass really stay there for? There were no bones, there was nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing
You know
is,
what I mean?
the other interesting mystery was the other mother who became gas, or whatever they could do. I don't know what the fuck that is. But she never showed back up what she was doing. Did she ever show back up, or did they ever resolve what happened to her exactly? That wasn't clear. Did she go inside the Wookiee? I don't know what happened here.
She was the original one that went inside the Wookiee. So she would have got pushed out along with the rest of them. And what I think they were doing is that the rest of them were doing that to enhance her ability to go in and
Okay. So I couldn't follow any of that. I couldn't follow any of that. But because I never read the High Republic comics. Because I know it's a bunch of comics that came out a couple years ago, and people was liking it and saying it was good, but I never read it. So I don't know what to look for. Don't know what to say. What powers are these? I have no idea. Right? So I don't know.
And
right.
And the very last thing that I'm going to address is the Saul thing, right? The people saying that Saul was thirsty to have a Padawan. Yeah, he was. But then at the same time, at the height of his thirstiness, he has now come across or tried to be prophesized as the one.
Right.
Wouldn't you want to be the teacher of the one?
Okay, I get that, because I get that it's Anakin, because Anakin didn't have a father, something similar, whatever, right? Or something similar process with May and Osha, and then they keep saying that May and Osha is not twins, we know that they say that. So whatever they are, I just interpret it as force dyad or some type of constructed kind of thing going on. But I felt they should have just said that, outright say this is possibly the one, not M count or just looking. What was the name of the thing that he was looking for on the planet? I forget the name of the thing. Sorry.
Virgins,
right? Yeah. Thank you. But because they said the planet was dead, and did the witches come first and life and seed it, or was it seeded first and then the witches came? I couldn't piece together that narrative.
That's actually, from what I remember, was not revealed at all. Here's the thing with me in this show, right? So for me, it's a good thing that I watched this after the fact, right? I literally watched this Wednesday, right? When after the episode 8 and whatnot, right? So when all the smoke cleared and whatnot, and everybody doesn't say what they had to say about the first 7 episodes, I just sort of restarted them with the first 2 episodes, right? So thematically, I like what the show is addressing. I like that it is about the duality of, just kind of exposing the hypocrisy of the Jedi itself, right? Nothing new as far as Star Wars lore goes, but I like that the show is, really was brave enough to say, okay, we're going to focus a lot on this, right? I like how, it shows these characters in these morally gray positions, especially with, Osha and May and Saul, right? Because, when you're watching Saul, he seems like this sort of stoic guy who just do the job and trying to hold up, trying to do right by the Force, trying to do right by the Jedi, sorry. And when it's revealed about what he did and how he's involved with what happened or what's going on with Osha and May, is just why, what's going on, right? So like the show explores that, right? Also like how, just throughout though, you're not really sure who is good or who's bad. And even if you see somebody, and I like this is one thing that I really like about the whole idea of having the 2 guilds in the first place, having Osha and May be there in the first place. Yeah, at first you look at that one character and say, okay, you're bad, she's good. And then they sort of flip it halfway, oh wait, no, actually, no, you know what I mean? But it's always in a morally gray kind of way. So in terms of those two, they have conflicting views, but it's just a matter of why, and what it all means, right? I also like how it kind of explores, this could be the early beginnings of the Sith, or it could be the rebirth of the Sith, and that's what will lead to what we see in episode 1, right? And all that kind of stuff, right? So I like how it's played on that too, right? I even like the whole sort of Rashomon effect kind of thing that they do with with episode 3 and 7. I like that, right? So, and just to get more positives out of the way, I think that the performances are solid for the most part. I like Amanda Sterling and what she did. Stenberg, sorry, and what she did. And, just how she played those roles. I thought that she played them very well. And, just everybody else just kind of did their thing, right? Even though you didn't see much of them. I legit didn't even know it was Daphne Keane till, I started talking about the show, right? That being said, though, just to get flaws with this show, right? So just want to get the technical stuff first, then to narrative, right? Technical. You mentioned Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. At least those had scores that I remember, musical scores that I remember. Though mine is from Michael Ebels, who work on Jordan Peele stuff, but I can't remember a lick of music from Acolyte. It's there, and it just kind of, how to say, but it's all, intense and whatnot, and it's all dark and shit, but like nothing musically really stood out to me. Even that one bit where you heard, I think it's Victoria Monet, I think she did the song The Power of Two or whatever it is. Yeah, that song was just there. I was like, all right, well, but it was just kind of out of place, so where it's placed.
Right.
Just without spoiling much. If there was in the finale, I would understand that, but they put that literally in this episode. Like, why though? Like, that makes no sense, right? But yeah, the score didn't stand out to me compared to those other shows. There were some weird editing choices as well, especially where certain scenes will end. Like perfect example, episode 4, big lead up to this big fight scene, and where they stop it off, I'm like, wait, why would you stop it there? Like, what is that? Why? And they have a couple of instances where you will see, slight spoiler, a ship crash, and they will just sort of just pan, they just do like this oh gosh, they'll just kind of transition to like a next scene, just so like something intense happens and a ship crashes, it just kind of cut to the next scene, like what like what's going on here, Dread? So yeah, the flow is kind of all over the place, man. You know what I mean? And for me, Dread, I felt that this, for what it was going for, what the theme was about, the story ultimately was, this could have been like 6 episodes, Dread. I felt like the show was poorly paced. It just sort of dragged certain things out. They could have gotten to certain points a lot quicker, Dread, because
paced.
After episode 5, which yes is the best episode because it had this kick-ass fight sequence which take up a majority of the whole episode, which I love. That's where the show really ramp up from there, Dread. But like, we could have gotten to that a lot sooner, Dread. Like, everything prior to that was just all build up and who May is gonna kill next and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff. But then when you get to the fight scene, that's when things just sort of pick up, right? They could have gotten to those things pretty quickly, the reveals and what the show really was about. Like, for me, what the show really was about, like, all those things really came into fruition in that second half, though, we could have gotten there a lot quicker, right? And yeah, like Ricardo, I just felt like it just ended kind of abruptly, like, oh, that's the end. But you saying you waited for season 2. I don't think there will be one, I think that's it. That's
the way they end that. I don't think so at all. Because the way they end that, the what you call it, Jacinto is the girl Padawan.
I know, but it's like
they address. The way they say they can't end that so.
All right, I saw it.
Clearly had a season 2 coming.
Okay. I sort of just treated it as a miniseries, and I was like, oh well, that's how he ended. All right, that was kind of underwhelming. But yeah, if there's a season 2, okay, I am welcome for that, right? Also, I should mention as a positive, I really dug the fight scenes. They really do harken back to old school wuxia films, so you could tell they was looking at Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This is our first fight scene in the first episode that is straight out of Crouching Tiger. That's from the set piece alone, right? And yeah, who's in it? Carrie Ann Moss, right? Because yeah, you know what I mean? Right. Ewan Wu-Ping, who work on the Matrix films, right? So you could see that, right? But yeah, them fight scenes was on point, especially how they used the lightsabers was great. Yes, some really smart calls there. I like that it's just sword duels, but no, we doing some kung fu shit here, so I like that, right? That being said, though, just as a whole, right? I wish that I knew more about Star Wars to really be invested in it, but I just sort of saw it. I just say,
it does. Right. You know what you remind me of? It does cater to that type of Star Wars fan that really into the overall lore. There's real pay attention to it. And they into it, like it's that type of Star Wars fan, because it does. Because I seen, like, I heard this back and forth about, it's inconsistent with this and that and the other, and like I don't know enough about Star Wars, but I remember, that is enough to remember. And so I was part of another movie group, and some fella come in and say, no, well, look how stupid this is, and woke this and woke that. He going off on the thing and how stupid the show is, and they cook him in the comments. They royal cook him in the comments.
Nice.
Like they respond. They cook this man in the comments hard, and I'm like, oh shit, like, I don't like. Again, I'm not invested in this I refuse to suffer from the brainworms. But like, dude, like I remember that, and I don't really like Star Wars all that much. So it's like whatever. But yeah, as I said, I really hope they don't end this here, because if it ended and we don't get a season 2, then it'll probably get a little bit of a fuck you from me, right? I feel so. But if it get a part 2, I'll be like, well, I'll wait for a part 2, but at least we're gonna finish the story or do something more with it, right? It can't end here.
Right.
Seriously.
So
Better not end here.
So last but certainly not least, right? Before we get to everybody's rating, right? So last but not least, right? The hope of a second season. I would like to see this story continue on, because there's a lot that they could pull from it, right? Especially again, I love the duality of the story itself and what the theme of it, right? Of duality, right? I like that, right? But the backlash surrounding this show is beyond ridiculous, and it's more than you just like when it was Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, is like, oh, you're just taking these great characters that we love and you're doing nothing with it, and you're telling these stories that not adding up to nothing and blah, and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, but even then, I wasn't that too big of a Star Wars fan to really agree with them, right? But in this case, just the trailer drop, you see an actor name, you see a director name, and instantaneously you just start seeing woke this, woke that, all that kind of stuff. You're not even giving the show a chance, right? And that really hurt me.
At this point, I don't have a chance. Listen, this is the same trash set of fans who basically make at best almost commit suicide. So that's why I don't even take on these people. Waste my time with that. So miss me with all of that.
Yeah.
However, as I said, I wish I put it on roughly on the same level as Ahsoka. Like for me, I'm not invested enough in this, and it need you to care about this other thing so much for me to get involved with it. So that's about it. Rating.
No, well, before we get to rating, I'll wrap it up, right? Sure. So, speaking of Ahsoka now, the thing that really irks me the most though is that I feel like a ton of these people who just spouting all this hate towards the show, it's probably ones who, even though I was ignoring it too, and maybe it existed, but I didn't care because it was connected to these Star Wars films already. Yeah, probably had an issue with Ahsoka being a show, right? Because we can't have a female-led Star Wars show. No, because now that's gonna give the Lucasfilm, all these people behind the scenes, the opportunity to push this feminist agenda on us. So we don't want that. We don't want to be shit like that.
I got it. The Ahsoka show is well received because a lot of people like her.
Right.
And
okay.
Like Ahsoka as a character. Like Ahsoka character is reasonably popular.
All right. Yeah.
I don't know.
But I guess the point again now is with this, right? We're seeing new characters, right? Nothing that connects to the movies, well, with the exception of the first one, right? But this is a brand new story. And for what it is, I applaud the show for just saying, okay, we're going to treat you to a brand new story. To those who don't like the fact that, we have an Obi-Wan series or a Boba Fett series, this is for you, right? Okay, fine. But at least give the show a chance. Even if you see a couple episodes and you don't like what you're seeing so far, at least let the show, watch a couple more episodes. And if probably after episode 4, you just kind of give up, fine, no problem, right? But literally this whole attitude of, all right, episode 3, come on, I had to make fun of that. And it's even worse now that people who kind of just hearing what these people saying, just taking that as gospel and saying, all right, well, if this guy is saying that it's trash, then I should laugh at it too. But you're not even going to sit down and give it a chance. Now, if you sit down and give it a chance and then you come out of it like, yeah, you didn't like it, that's fine. You sat down and do it, right? But it's those who did not do that now and just going off of what people are saying. That's the part. That's the egregious thing about it, right? But yes, the show is flawed, but is no way what I say is a terrible, horrible, detestable show, right? It really took bold risk. Oh, and I should mention, just elephant in the room, right? That whole issue that people have with episode 3 and, a same-sex couple in this whole Coven of Witches thing, boy, that is neither here nor there. And the show itself moved just like that. It's not even anything to sneeze at, Shred. And yet, when when people knew this was going to happen, people started to make a big scene about it, right? Again, you see the episode, you see the context, you just hear something, or you just see a still and you tell yourself, you see, this is what they do with Star Wars, right? But I am not that invested in that world to agree with them, to even make a big scene about it, right? But again, it's just, you're not giving the show a chance, right? You're just going off of your own assumptions, right? That's really what it is, right? And it sucks though that we live in a world like this, right? But but the show is what it is. So it's not the worst show in the world, but it's not the best Star Wars show I've seen either. So yes, but getting into rating, I will give this a very, very light short of 5. It's alright for what it is, right? But the unfortunate thing about it though is just that what people remember the most about it is the backlash, right? And not just about people who were watching the show and critiquing it and going online and saying things about it and making fun of it, but the people who were just tuning into those people and just saying, all right, well, if this guy said bad, then I can laugh at it and say it bad too, right? And just go into it and you have that other person's assumption, going into it, right? Instead of you sitting down and really taking in the show for yourself and making your own opinion of it, right? If you find after you see the whole thing that's shit, then cool, no problem. You that's your opinion. But you don't have to go off of other people's opinions just like that. And then even worse now, the woke stuff, you're trying to say something with, like, come the fuck on, man. It's like, it's 2024, it's Star Wars, it's a universe, folks. Deal with it, right? That's it.
These are the same. Listen, this is the same fan base that almost drove Ahmed Best into suicide depression and into depression. That's why I don't.
Oh yes, and Jake Lloyd, and had the gall to have this online petition to write off last Jedi, like, oh, this movie should not exist.
That's embarrassing nonsense.
Like, come the fuck on now, man, really? But that's all I'll say. But Ashton, if you're still there, you can give your rating.
So my rating for this is a 5.5 out of 10. I think that's what it is. I think it's a mid-show that has bright spots, but as many bright spots as equal dark spots on it. And in terms of the woke crowd and the anti-woke crowd, I think it's about time that they just leave their politics out of my stuff. You understand? I want to watch shows without any of their agendas being pushed over everything. And quite frankly, they're very annoying. You understand? So the less of that I can get is the better. Why in a whole galaxy, far, far away, two female people can't love each other? I don't care. And even if they did, I don't care.
Exactly. Like sorry to cut you there, Ashton, but like, come on, man. You're telling me that sorry to say, you're telling me that there aren't queer fans of Star Wars. Like, what like they shouldn't at least be, kind of given a little bit of representation or some kind of acknowledgement or something like that. Now, but don't act like, oh, well, because I don't believe in that, you're excluded. Like, almost like this this property is yours. It's not yours, bro. It's not yours. Stop it. But go on, I'm done.
But yeah, I mean, because we're talking about a show where aliens doesn't be loving each other. So I mean, just stop it. I mean, just look at a program and don't push your whole personal ideologies all over it. Just look at it and enjoy it or don't enjoy it. But
Star Wars, motherfucker.
It's not supposed to be real. It's not supposed to be real, guys. It's just supposed to either entertain you or not entertain you.
Yeah, it's Star Wars. Right? It's not the Holy Bible. All right, I'm done.
And this was entertaining, minus the bad writing. This was entertaining because they had their bright spots, but they couldn't connect the writing to the story in a manner that was, I guess, appealing or cohesive. I don't know what words you want to use, but insert your own words there for that one, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, solid 5.5 out of 10.
Right. Ricardo, closing off, final thoughts and rating.
Yep, I agree with Ashton. It's I have it about a 6, closer to a 5 than a 7. In my humble opinion, I really felt that this did not need to stretch out that long, and they could have tell more story in the time. I felt like I watched half of a story, right? When it got to the ending, I was like, oh, the story now starts. What the hell is this? And listen, if this is the only season, then it's probably going to get a much lower score. But if we get a sequel and they're wrapping it up, then okay, I could wait. But I'm not going to wait because I'll forget this season 1 as it is. I didn't hate it, right? I like it about as much as Ahsoka. Not super hype, not agreed. 6 out of 10. Moving on.
Moving on.